So, Melissa, thank you for joining today for our episode 6 of Her Stories, where we focus on successful women leaders globally. Welcome.
Thank
Uh,
you. Happy to be here.
yeah, and then so I'm sure the insights that you're going to share with us today is going to be inspiration for our younger generation of women who will be watching this video. So let's start. Great.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Pleasure
great.
hosting
So
you today, Melissa.
No, thank you for the invite. I am humbled and happy to be here.
Always.
yeah. All right. So, Melissa, you are the marketing director at Dataiku, right? So, can you just, in a scope, describe your daily chores, how your day does look like at Dataiku?
Sure, happy to. So I actually lead a team that covers the East region and Latin
Mm-hmm.
America for
Mm-hmm.
the marketing team at Dataiku. So basically, what we do is we
Mm-hmm.
support the sales organization in helping them, drive new customers and opportunities. So my daily activities can go from having back-to-back meeting with my sales key stakeholders and really understanding the challenges
Mm-hmm.
and the needs that they need and how we can, from a marketing perspective, support them throughout different campaigns and programs. To it can be we are having an event that we're hosting somewhere. So it's a lot of orchestrating between what we do on a marketing side in terms of campaigns, events, programs, and also, be the liaison for our sales
Mm-hmm.
team to support them with marketing activities.
Sounds,
Wonderful,
yeah,
wonderful.
sounds very active daily chores that you
Yes,
have.
it's
And
not boring at all.
amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
All right, so this is one of the interesting topics while talking about women empowerment, and then for us, for everyone while growing up, they always have someone to look for, right? To look up to, and for you while growing up, did you have someone or anyone or anything that inspired you, so that you could have an interest in women empowerment?
Yeah, of course, definitely. I come from a very women-led
Mm-hmm.
family. We always talk about our grandma, my mom's mom, as like our matriarch. Like we are a lot of women. We are mostly women in my family. So I think we tend to always, most of us look at our mothers as our main role model, and in my
Yeah.
case, it was definitely my mom. I lost my mom when I was a little girl, so
Oh,
she definitely became even more of
Mm-hmm.
a role and somebody that I looked up to, and also kind of like had to find a way to complete her story since I
Mm-hmm.
lost her so young. So, through talking with my grandmother and with my uncles and my aunts, get to know my mom,
Mm-hmm.
more throughout the years, and kind of like build that story of who she was and kind of like connect the dots of the type of woman she was. And the older I got and the more I understood and became mature and became, as a woman, started to go through challenges that we
Mm-hmm.
go through, I was like, wow, my mom was amazing. She went through this or she went through that, and to this day, she's definitely was my role model. And then my grandmother, definitely. She's still around, 96,
oh,
she's,
wow.
yeah, she
Crazy.
raised me as a kid and a teenager, which, for a grandparent to raise, a grandchild, it's very challenging. And she put up with me, and she was she did a good job because I did well at the end. So yeah, definitely a lot of women in my life, in my family, that have always in one way or another been an influence, a positive influence in my life.
So, if
Yeah.
I may ask, Melissa, how many siblings do you have?
So I'm an only child. I
Oh, okay.
am
So you,
yes,
so
but
you,
I but we are a lot of cousins. So I
right,
grew up with my cousins who were mostly women. So
Right.
I had a lot of women cousins. I had a lot of I have a lot of aunts, aunt cousins. So I was always surrounded by a big family. We are a big family, even though I was an only child. So yeah. So that was definitely nice.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Great. Yeah, I mean, sounds like a kind of inspiring because for all of us, parents are, first inspirations for the, for us, the first people for us to look up to, right? Especially for us, the
Yes.
mothers, because from childhood we can see, like, their daily activities, and then at that time we might not be understanding, but, by the time you grow up, you yourself, faced with some kind of struggles and challenges, and then you see what kind of experiences she was going through, right?
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of my grandmother, who definitely has a very important place in my heart. She is my second mom, and
Mm.
I got to discover, and I just told you, she's 96. And when I
Yeah.
think back of conversations that we had when I was in my 20s, like when we were talking about, things as, birth control and
Mm.
okay, you're for, these very progressive, open conversations. And she
Right.
was always very open about it. She was never judgmental. She was very
Mm.
understanding, or even like, having your first boyfriend. And she was so open for her
Yeah.
age and her time, that I see that now and I'm like, wow, like you must have
Yeah.
had a hard time in your age, like,
Right.
being that open and being that, liberal
Mm.
and not following the norms, which now it's a little bit, easier because we're getting into a better place as women. But for
Mm.
her, that was like, I admire her so much now that I understand that when she was in her 20s, or when she
Yeah.
was raising me and she was 60 years old, and she had this openness and
Mm.
open-mindedness
Mm.
around so many topics.
Amazing, because Melissa, I think this would be apt to ask you this on your views of what should be the priority of women in today's time and age, because as you rightly mentioned, that it would have taken her a lot of courage to be that open, given the fact that you lost your mom at a very early age. So to take care, the reason why I asked you how many siblings did you have is I just wanted to know, at that given point in time, how many kids was she handling, and giving and sharing her love. So
Mm.
at that time, she was so liberal and she was so open with her thoughts and process. And you see, today's generation is moving towards that. So
Mm.
what do you think, according to you, should be the priority in today's time and age for women?
Look, I feel like there's such a long list of things that we need to focus on, right? To for our well-being and for the future generations, and as trailblazers, having to
Right.
lead the way in
Mm.
in like how we should live in a world that is more
Mm.
empathetic, understanding, just, right. But I always say, I always give the example of the when you're in an airplane, and the flight attendant is giving the instructions, like, always put the oxygen first to
Mm.
Right.
yourself before helping others. So I think the main priority as a woman in this time of age, with all of our professional aspirations as well as our, personal ones, is
Mm.
you have to be your biggest advocate. It's nobody else. There's no guarantee that others will be your advocate, right? So
Mm.
you need to be that for yourself. You need to be your biggest supporter. You need to be your main caretaker, right?
Right.
And put yourself first. Like, we kind of, as women, need to be a little bit selfish, because throughout so many years we were always put second, third, and we're always the one caring and
Right.
solving for others. So me personally, growing up as an orphan, I had a big family, but I didn't have my parents.
Sure.
It's never the same. It's never the
No.
same when you don't have your parents. So I had to learn that a lot of the things I had to
Mm.
get on my own, right? There were things that I couldn't expect somebody else to do for me, or say for me. Like, nobody else would know what was going through my mind, what I was feeling. So if I don't talk about it, if I don't educate others,
Right.
I'm not building a world that's going to be better for me. So I think today, and that's why in so many topics, I'm like the advocate of everything, because I've gone through just personally so many challenges and things in my life, not by choice. They happen to me, that I end up being an advocate for all of those, because I'm like, if I need to create a world that can help me and support me in the things that I've been going through. And the only way that I can do that is by me starting by myself, and by sharing, and by saying, this is important because X, Y, and Z, and this is how you help me. So I think as women, we at least in my generation, coming from a Latin American, culture, even though I come from a very progressive and women feminine family, I struggled in being outspoken about certain things. So I think
Right.
that's the most important thing, and then that will trickle on to the other important things that we should be
Yeah.
doing.
Wonderful, wonderful. In fact, Melissa, let me take a couple of minutes here and talk about, something similar to what you've spoken, what we do here at hers. In fact, when hers was formed, the founder Manan Sheikh had this idea of giving it back to the community, giving it back to the professional community, so to speak. So what the idea that came to his mind was, let's look at an all women's team in this particular sector and domain, and not just a regular ordinary working professionals, but also give an opportunity to women who have been low on confidence, or who have been rejected or inferior by nature, or someone who's been a housewife all her life, but wanted to get that opportunity to work, because now after the post pandemic era, a lot of companies have come up with work from home options as well, and so do we. So at hers, we ensure that the women out here have the recipe for success. We give them all the tools to succeed. And similar to my next question to you, work-life balance is of utmost importance now post pandemic era. So as a decision maker in your organization, have you made any changes in your current policies and procedures in terms of flexible work hours, in terms of maternity leave policy, or anything very specific to women?
Yeah, so I'll talk to you on the personal side, and I'll
Sure.
tell you a little bit about Dataiku. So the reason I chose to come to this company was because of its culture. It's very diversity is one of our core values, and it's
Sure.
something that I really, for me, when I look for a place, I want to make sure that it's not just written on the website, that it's
Right.
actually something you breathe and you feel and you see. And that's the case with Dataiku, and they have a lot of, as tech companies tend to be spearheading, right, these
Right.
type of benefits and things like that. So we definitely have, the remote flexibility, the working from home. We have different type of um schedules, and kind of like formats for
Right.
different team members. We definitely have support around the parenthood journey, right? So, helping with as you go through your fertility or infertility journey and things like that. So it is, I do feel very supported as a woman in the place that I am. And I think that's super important. And it's, for me, a place that, it's one of the things that I prioritize when I choose to be at a
Oh,
company, right? For me, it's okay, what is that work-life balance? And one of the first things that I read when I was researching on the company was the work-life balance. And I was like, that is something that at this point of my life, I'm really prioritizing. And then when I joined, I was like, it's actually true. They actually do practice it. It's not just, on the website. So it's amazing to see that, from a top down, it's actually, people do prioritize it.
amazing.
Now on the personal side, and this might go into one of the other things I wanted to share with you was I I founded a nonprofit about 3 years ago that
Mm-hmm.
is focused on Venezuelan women.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly, our mission is to inspire and empower these women to
Wow.
pursue a career in tech and
Okay.
support them through their journey as migrants. And the reason being, it's a very niche, as you can see, audience, and it's because the last 5 to 10 years, Venezuela has seen such a huge exodus of people that have left the country because of the political and social and economical, turmoil. And based on my personal story, I was like, I don't come from tech, and I got into tech. So if I could do it when I migrated, if I could do it, if I could start a career later in my life, like other women can do that. So that is what I'm on my personal side. That's my personal project that we've been working on the last 3 years. And that's how I ensure to empower other women and build a space where these women feel heard and feel supported and
Wonderful.
really empowered
Wonderful.
in a tangible way.
Amazing, Melissa.
Yeah.
Amazing. Kudos to that.
I mean, that sounds so wonderful. I just want to say,
Yeah.
wow, because it just shows how supportive you are. I mean, around the woman who's, next to you or near to you. And then it just shows how courageous and resilient you are, right? So, and then also,
I try.
right. And then, which also, being, supportive and courageous, it takes a lot of time and effort, right, to reach to that level where you can understand someone else's position and someone else's struggles and the challenges that they're going through, right? And then, for example, for you, what kind of a challenges that you've had while, developing yourself in this, industry, in this business, and then anything that you learned from them that you could share so that do you think that it's so valid?
Yes. So that there's a lot. And I think going back to what I just shared of my personal journey into the corporate world, right? Where I came from, I'm from Venezuela, and I lived in a small, town that was focused on oil and energy. So my previous work experience, like I worked with oil ships, and I was like selling to them. So it was not fancy at all. It was not corporate at all. I was like literally going up, what they call the pilot ladders, the monkey ladders up ships with a helmet to deliver a box of of screws and bolts. But I spoke English, and I was hungry, and I was open to learn. And when I migrated to Argentina, and I was like, okay, I need to start working. Like, what do I do? So I started looking for jobs that asked for the skills that I had, and I knew that English, when you're in a non-English country, it's a powerful skill, because they're looking for people who are bilingual and have some. And in this case, they were looking for commercial experience. So I got into tech that way, and believe me, it was challenging because I had no idea what a database was. I was like, how do I sell? It's like there's the imposter syndrome, and there's so many things, right? And then when I moved to the US, it heightened, right? Because I was already a migrant, but I was a migrant in a Spanish-speaking South American country. And now I was going to be a migrant in an English-speaking, San Francisco, like Silicon Valley, like where the tech dream happens. And here is me coming from my little oil town, and
Wow.
all of these people who went to Stanford and Berkeley, and I felt so out of place. And I didn't know the term imposter syndrome. I don't even know. I mean, I think it was maybe coming out back then. I don't know, but I didn't know it. But when I discovered it, I was like, oh, that's me. I always feel like that. And I always threw myself down, as if I didn't, there were moments where yeah, I deserve to be here, because I've worked so hard to do, like, I've literally worked so hard, but then on the other hand, I was like, I don't, how
Right.
am I even here, you know?
Yeah.
So I think as women, that is also something that I think, not saying that imposter syndrome doesn't affect men, but women are definitely, something, we are much more exposed to that because we've always
True.
been more
True.
more
Yeah.
kind of like kept in, like,
True.
you're less, you have to, and coming from a Latin American culture where we're taught about hierarchies and about meritocracy and about how you have to, the authority, so it's really hard for you to feel completely confident that, so that was a struggle for me. And
Mm.
it was a struggle for a while. So I think that's something that definitely as women and as women in tech and anybody in tech can relate to, especially if you're a migrant, underrepresented, you come from an underrepresented minority group, English is not your first language. There's so many things that can make you feel
Yeah.
Right.
imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. But let me tell you, Melissa, I'm sure that experience has made you a lot more stronger and more
Mm.
chiseled right now.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I always say that, and I wish it weren't so, that the more hardship you go through,
Right.
it definitely builds much more of your character and your resilience. But I wish we didn't have to go through hardships to
Of
get there
course. Of
sometimes.
course. That's
Yeah.
But definitely that's what I've gained on the other side.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Aren't we all learning from mistakes, right?
Yes, totally. That's the best school.
Yeah.
The mistake school is the best school of thought to me.
Self-learning, self-learning,
Yeah,
never fail.
exactly. Exactly.
Right. So, talking about experience, like, that you already said that, you have such a vast experience there, we got to know a lot about you, and then it was such a, good story that I'm myself getting inspired too. And then for
Likewise.
the younger, women who are, paving their career in tech or marketing. So, from your experience, what one takeaway that you would like to share, any, like, advices?
Yes, I think it's really important to be knowledgeable.
Hmm.
I'll tell you another lesson I learned. When I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
I always struggled in identifying what was the thing I wanted to do. Like
Yeah.
when we were in the last 2 years of high school and everybody was like, choosing their what they were going to study, their majors. Well, we don't do
Mm-hmm.
majors and minors, but kind of, what am I going to study? And I never had 100% clarity on that one thing that I wanted to do. I was never the one that was like, I want to be a graphic designer and I'm passionate. Like I always loved different things at
Yeah.
different moments of my life. So when I was younger, I really struggled with that. I was like, how do I not have that one thing? Like, why do I not know? Like, I remember I signed up for computer engineering,
Mm-hmm.
international relationships. So,
Wow.
diplomacy. And I think the third one was tourism and hotel management. So like things that have nothing to do
Nothing to do with
and
each other.
nothing to do with each other. And there was one time where I was like, I'm going to do mechanical
Oh,
engineer because I live
wow.
in a place. And I always like to participate in different things. I was always an athlete. I was always
You
leading a
were.
dance group. I was always doing something different. And it frustrated me. And I thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't have clarity in that one thing. I didn't have that specific thing that I wanted to do and was amazing at and was gonna, build us a career around that. So I went to school. I studied tourism. That was my
Right.
first career. And
Hmm.
then I was like, okay, I like traveling, but that doesn't mean this is what, like, okay, like I'm getting close, but I never worked in anything around that. And then I studied PR and communications later on, and I was like, okay, this is kind of more of my thing. Now, I will say, fast forward 10 years later, I actually think that the fact that I was good at different things and I enjoyed different things is actually what makes me so good. Like that is my edge. Like that is my competitive advantage because I have knowledge of so many different things. Being a generalist and doing and
Beautiful.
liking different things is not a bad thing, especially in today's world. So when I am talking to, a 20-year-old member of my nonprofit who's like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to study, I'm like, it's okay. You do
Yeah.
not have to have this figured out. I don't know who told us that at
Yeah.
17 we were supposed to
Right.
have this figured
Exactly.
out.
Figure
I
out.
figured this out when I was like 32. Like that's kind of like when I was like, oh, I actually like marketing and I like this about marketing, right? So my biggest advice is expose yourself to different things, different skills. Like don't feel like you have to be in one box and
Mm,
become an expert in that box. Like I
mm,
think that model is outdated. And today it's
yeah.
so important to show how having knowledge, broad knowledge of different things, not 100% knowledge, but being
Yeah.
knowledgeable, like,
Mm,
high level, like, important things about business, what's going on in the world, like, what does marketing do? Like, okay, what is an engineer? Like, just knowing a little bit of everything exposes you, and then
mm-hmm.
you'll find what your thing is. So that for me is, I think, the biggest advice, especially when you're figuring out what you want to do, and
Yeah.
just try different things. I started in sales. I've been an English teacher. I've been a dance teacher. I was a BDR. I was a customer success manager. Then and then I found my thing. So the
Yeah.
more you
So
expose yourself to different things, it's the best for
I
you.
can, I cannot express the fact that how deeply can I connect with what you just said, Melissa.
Mm,
Because I'll tell you something about myself. I graduated with computer science, and then that thought hit me, and I did my master's in English literature. Now, again, computer science and master's in English literature has got nothing to do with each other. Then after graduation, what I realized is I just love reading. I just love reading.
Yeah.
But English literature would be more inclined towards what I like and what I can naturally do. The story
mm,
does not end there. Come 2016, I was like, okay, fine. I looked up what the Ironman sport is, started training for that.
mm.
And when you said that you were an
Wow.
athlete, so I've qualified for the Ironman World Championships. So I'll be
Oh,
racing
wow.
Yeah.
that
That's
in 2023.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
That
as
is
as
amazing.
when you were talking about it, I was getting goosebumps because I could actually relate to what you just said. Computer science, English literature, and now sports, nothing
Yeah.
to do with each other, but you eventually find out why you have done something in your life, and you
Yeah.
can then
And all of that adds up and
yes,
gives you
yes.
gives you a perspective, gives you different skill sets. Like if you wouldn't have studied something that it's not at all
Right.
what you're doing today, it wouldn't have given you insight into so many things that you have now, right? So I
Absolutely.
think that's
It gives you that
amazing.
edge. It gives you that
It
dynamic
gives you
approach.
that edge.
It,
Yeah,
it, it helps you understand a situation 360 degrees. So I think
totally.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, it sounds like, having a lot of passions and the various passions and a lot of interests is not something bad. It's completely all right. And then, taking your own sweet time, figuring out till the time yet what you want to do is like, I think that's the one lesson that, for younger generation that needs to be put on, moving forward and all, because it takes a lot of time to figure out and all. Because I
Yes.
myself can relate it because I myself have a lot of passions, and then sometimes I feel like, oh, time's so less. I want to do this, I want to do that also. I want to read this, I want to write that, I want to, do this, go there, travel there, and
By the
experience
way,
this feeling.
Melissa, Arzuv is pretty modest. She's not letting us know that she already knows four foreign languages, and she loves speaking.
Wow.
She loves learning a new language and
Yeah,
conversing. So,
thank you.
yeah.
That's
So,
amazing.
thank
That's
you, Shamoil.
amazing.
Yeah, language and literature is something I'm very and deeply passionate about. I like same here, like with Shamoil. Like I also started with my education at BA English Literature, then MA English Literature as well, and now I'm doing sales. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited where my career is going. But my hopes are just rising every year and every year because I can keep on track with every passion that I have and doing the actual job that I have. And yeah, I mean, learning, having and gaining a lot of experience is something, makes you
That's
more,
so valuable.
I
yeah.
It's
know.
so valuable. It's great to be a jack of all trades. That's my superpower. I'm just like, you know what? I'm that
Right.
chameleon. Bring it on.
Right.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Melissa. In fact, I just realized that we've gone over and we've taken a lot of your time. But I would definitely want to ask you one final question before we let you go. I mean, with the enriched experience that you've had over the last uh, decades or so, what is that one advice that you would want to give your younger self, while growing up? What is that one thing that you think now in hindsight, if I had this opportunity to, run the time machine and go back to that particular age, I would like to rectify, if any, that is?
Yes. I would tell myself, embrace the
Mhm.
mistakes.
Yeah.
I was very hard on myself every time I messed up. I was, my worst critic. I would be very hard on myself when, I ended up making a bad decision, or, disappointing my family with a decision, or, losing
Right.
the opportunity for something great. And
Mhm.
if you ask me today, would you change anything in the decisions you made as your younger self? And I would say no, because
Wow.
all of those mistakes got me to where I am today, and I think it's just part of the journey. So I would be a little, I mean, I think it was good that I was hard on myself, because then that pushed me, right. If I would be like more like laissez-faire, like I whatever, I messed up.
Yeah.
But it taught me, like I
Right.
wish I knew that was part of the journey, and I would have maybe been a little less hard on myself.
Beautifully put, beautifully put. Because it takes courage, Melissa, to raise your hand and say that, hey, you know what? I have been the biggest critic for myself. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's off to you
Mm.
for admitting that.
Right.
Yeah, and I became also very vocal about sharing my mess ups. Like as I grew, I was like, why, like I did this and I did that, and people are like, oh, but I'm like, yeah, and I learned from it, and I'm here now, and then that helped me get there, and then I learned about that, and I think, it's okay, and when people
Right.
talk about these mistakes, it helps others be like, oh, like it's not just me, it's like nobody has it completely figured out. So yeah, and I feel like for the younger generations, with the level of pressure and expectation that exists today,
Yeah.
it's really tough on them, right? So
Yes.
just embrace it.
Amazing, amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, Melissa, again, we can't thank you enough for joining to our episode today. It was a lovely conversation. Thank you, for sharing your journey with us. And we got to learn a lot of things, and we couldn't relate more with the experiences that you had. And I so wish that the insights that you shared with us will be an inspiration to our audiences who will be watching this video.
Right.
And I hope we can do it again in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to come and chat with you again. I also had fun.
Yeah,
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, we would definitely want to be connected with you, Melissa. And yours, wishing you happy holidays.
yeah,
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure spending some time with you, Arzuv. Thank you for everything. Shamoil, it was
yeah,
great meeting you, and also
Like,
getting a little bit of your story.
likewise,
yeah,
Melissa. Pleasure is all ours.
yeah. Thank you.